This is going to be a discussion on basically your options for the sale. So specifically about the CitizenCon sale, and then the the best of the best from the previous sale that's still ongoing. I'm going to bring up towards the end of this discussion. So there's two main pages I'm going to link below. But the gist is any of these little sale features to get the hype up. At the bottom of them is your sale options. And I wanted to discuss like a couple different things that I learned just going through these that were a little surprising to me in a good way. So if you have concierge, that's what this symbol is, you have access to the 500 USD war bond, and it includes a $19 paint, USD paint. This is the regular color, and then this white color, the Condor paint job, comes with the concierge version of the same price. Now, the key thing here is that both of these have LTI. If this is your first big sale, if it's War Bond, it includes LTI as a concept. In the past, a long time ago, all concept sales had LTI because this can be purchased with store credit. This one here that you see the higher price, the 575 USD. Nowadays, that's not the case. So I'm going to go into ship upgrade discussion towards the end of this, but I'm just covering what's on this page right now. This is probably your best bet if you have concierge and if you have what's called new money, not credit you're using. So that's the gist. This ship right here, if you do not buy the War Bond one, you only use store credit, or you try to mix in store credit, you will only get 6 months insurance. And in this configuration, it is not worth getting. These two, of course, with the new money are. But one little sneaky thing here, if you hit the arrow, and it's here. I mean, I'm not saying it's. I shouldn't say it's sneaky, but it's just a little out of your way. The Condor paint is available separately from this ship. Now, what me and quite a lot of other folks from Concierge and from when there's like custom things for the subscribers and or limited time offer paints for everybody would recommend is consider picking up just the paint. If you are in love with collecting ships that are rare, uh, you can always buy one of these in game or at a sale in the future or CCU to it later. That means an upgrade from another ship. Uh, you can then add this rare paint. So that's something to remember about the paint system. The paint does not change the ship. You can add it, remove it. It's just a paint. It's just a skin. A lot like in a game, a weapon skin or an armor skin or something. It, so picking up this right here, and you can use store credit or new money, give you that rare look of what the limited time offer part of this is. The only other limited time offer concept here is that this concept sale has that war bond price. This will be the lowest price this ever comes to. So if you are picking it up as a war bond, I would skip the skin because you'll get it for free if you're a concierge. And if you're already a serious amount into this game and you're close to concierge, consider tapping over that number. So you need to get to 1K USD, and then you would have these open up to you. And that's a serious decision. But if you are close and you are excited about that skin, that's how you can pick it up. You can either pick it up with War Bond for there, or once you're concierge, or if you're already concierge, you can pick it up on its own. I just wanted to mention that. Unfortunately, there is no other paints for the Liberator, which is kind of a shame because a lot of times they do things like that. But I do want to mention the good news here that there will be more paints for this ship. It is extremely popular ship. It's going to be very popular with anybody operating in Pyro and other places. Without going too in depth about that, this is a sale discussion. I'm trying to focus these talks, but one of the things to remember is there will be other paints, and they won't be concierge tied. I can guarantee there will be more paints. Well, I can't guarantee it, but every single other ship pretty much that goes eventually to flyable then suddenly has paints added to it. Even the Hercules recently got some very nice paint jobs, and combined with all their things, like you can even make them look all sorts of colors, match with ground vehicles you have loaded in them. With the Timberline series is just a beautiful. Anyway, the point is, you can do a lot with paints. You can make everything work, and understand that today you do not have to make any major purchases to your fleet if you don't want to. If you happen to be concierge already, it's probably worth picking up that paint job, even if you don't pick up the ship today. Uh, the sale, we really don't know how long it's going to be available, but it's a safe bet to say probably at least a few more days. I would probably say to the end of the week. CitizenCon was on October 9th. So if I'm following that logic, it was on a Saturday, October 9th. Give it another 7 days. Next Saturday is probably when I would start being very cautious. I would probably make my decision in the next couple of days about picking something up. And on to one of the disappointments of the Liberator series of sales is the Liberator Fighter Pack. So I just got done saying that the War Bond concept right here for both of the concept War Bonds options. This just has the extra skin. Reminder, it's the same thing, just has the paint included, the concierge version. Um, this right here has what you would think is a good selection, right? It does have LTI across the board, but look at what your money is going to. You have an Avenger Titan, you have an Arrow, an Anvil Arrow, you have an Anvil Hawk, and you have a Tumbril Cyclone. It's a disappointment not on purpose. It makes sense that the Anvil company would be trying to push some of their own assets in, but the Hawk is a very specialized bounty hunter ship. It looks really cool when it folds up and everything, and it has the one little pod in the back to put someone that's a bounty. You might have some fun as running it with NPC, running it to capture NPCs or something, but it's a very weak ship uh, in the grand scheme of things. Uh, all the Arrow is a solid ship, but I think I have a policy of I think it's a little overpriced for what it is. I think it's about probably 10 or 20 USD more than where it really should be, but it has the military tax basically. It's like a light military fighter. The Tumbril Cyclone TR, I'm not quite sure why they chose the TR for this, but it is there. It's a shame they didn't put the MT, the current fruit of the moment Cyclone, but they put the TR in here, and then the Titan, which is a solid standby ship. But at this point, you're already getting some higher tier ships. I feel like this shouldn't be an Avenger Titan, but maybe they were looking at each other and saying, "Well, what else should we put in here?" Anvil really doesn't have a multi-role fighter that's in that category of the Avenger Titan. So you have the Pisces, you have the Titan, um, and then you start drifting bigger, and we can't go putting a Drake Cutlass in here or something. It won't fit on the top pad. So um, yeah, it's a little bittersweet though. I think this is a strange combination. Maybe the Avenger Titan shouldn't be a ship at all. Maybe it should have been just a Liberator combat pack or something, and put a Nova tank in there. Maybe that would have been a better option, because I could see that filling out this type of group. I mean, I wouldn't equip this ship with an Arrow, a Hawk, and a Titan. It wouldn't even fit, and then a single Cyclone TR on the undercarriage. I would not do that. But these are some good LTI tokens. So I know this is ridiculous saying something like this, but these are good for later on if you don't already have LTI tokens and you're doing that what I'll call catch up, where you're getting excited about the game, you're trying to get deeper into backing, and you don't have already some ships on standby to upgrade from for lifetime insurance on different ships that you may run into or find, oh, this is a cool looking ship. And they're not a bad price point, because almost every single ship is going to be more expensive than these, so you can bounce up pretty well. I That's about all I can say about this. I think this pack is a little weak. I'm just being honest with you. Especially, I mean, the credit version is even worse because it's got the Liberator price jump, and there's no discount to speak of there. So I and also this is the other thing about this, the insurance. So you have a 6 month insurance policy, which is I can't even imagine purchasing a Liberator with 6 months insurance. A capital logistics vessel. And the rest of these would only have the 6 months insurance as well. So the CCU chaining concept would be completely useless on this pack. So your only real option outside of concierge for packs would be this Liberator Fighter pack, and it's a little weak, but it would be good for LTI tokens if you're playing catch up. Getting ready for the annual sale. Remember, you would in this theory you would spend even more. So I really don't know if that's worth it, to be honest. Especially because that's War Bond. The only one I just mentioned that has the lifetime is the War Bond variant of the fighter pack. It's a lot of money tied up in that. A lot of money. Um, so this one is a little more interesting to me, and also this one because this comes with the lifetime right there. So both these packs have the Condor paint. They include some very interesting ships. You have the Super Hornet, you get the Gladiator, you've got the Anvil Hurricane, you've got the Ballista. So this is kind of one of the reasons I was bringing up the Nova tank in the previous package. The Ballista is a bit more expensive, and it's more of a specialist anti-air ground vehicle, whereas the Nova is like a anti-ground vehicle. That both of them are going to be very useful. And if you don't want to put them both in the same pack and tie up a lot of money in that pack, it would have made sense to put the cheaper of the two. Nova's a little cheaper in the other pack instead of that. Instead of the kind of the weird one out, the Avenger, really shouldn't be in there. But I'm kind of picking on the Avenger. It's a solid ship. Don't get me wrong. But I just don't see it as a long term hold or even a near term usable ship. If you have anything bigger, you're going to want to use it. Heck, the loaner for the Liberator alone is the M2, and that's pretty powerful in itself. So this Liberator Strike Pack is actually quite interesting to me. A Super Hornet and a Gladiator is a heck of a combination. You have a seriously decent fighter combined with a Torp runner. That's pretty nasty combination. And if you don't want to go with any torps, you don't want to have to worry about reloading them. Remember, you have 400 SCU in here, but can it rearm? Can it do this? Can it do that? Probably at the very minimal, if anything. So, you might be staring at some cargo and need another ship in support to actually rearm these ships. You do have an Anvil Hurricane. That is without a doubt one of the best right now, one of the nastiest, highest DPS ships in the game when it can get close to something. And then you have the Ballista. This is the kind of loadout you're going to be running in this type of ship if it's going to drop off, say, a really world of hurt at an outpost, or if it's trying to reinforce a position. So this is the only ship you have in your fleet that can field this type of stuff, and you're trying to support your org that has a bigger stake in something. I could see this being used. Literally dropping the Ballista off, having the Hornet and the Cane or the Hornet and the Gladiator off your decks, protecting you while you're going around, and then doing what they have to do, going on patrol and things. I feel like, remember, this ship can refuel, by the way. That's something that's guaranteed. So refueling, it has 400 SCU storage space. So if you can, even if at the very least you're using hand tools to repair and rearm with tractor beams and with repair parts to the multi-tools or specialist items in the future, this ship is going to have a lot of potential. I'm not going to go deep into that. I want to do an entire video just comparing it to the Idris, comparing it to the Kraken, comparing it to even the Crucible. But this minute, right now, you have a ship that is symbiotic with the rest of this pack that you can purchase. So if you're looking hard at, say, moving around stuff, this pack is good, but it's a war bond. And if you're willing to stomach the extra cost, this pack is great because you can melt down something serious and you can get an entire assortment of ships including a Liberator with the nice paint job. So that's an option. That's your really your final option on this sale. And then they go into the upgrade. So the CCU is always a good option. The price point it's at, be careful. I'm hearing, I had one person mention in one of the discords that they were talking about upgrading their BMM, their Bennu Merchantman, to the Liberator. And I literally direct messaged them and was like, that's a terrible idea at this moment. I would highly recommend you at least wait this out. At the very least, don't apply the upgrade because I strongly feel the Banyu Merchantman will go up in value. So if you go and you try to put something on that's worth more than the other thing, you're going to mess yourself up. It's a tough tale, but this is the way things are done. If you go into the ship upgrades if you go into the ship upgrade system and you go to the all ships button on the left side, it doesn't lock you in to a specific ship like the ships you have, so or what's available for sale like on the right side. So you can go and go and go and you can just shoot for the moon. Really, every single ship is in here. And one of the things is interesting to me is the value on some of these larger ships. Like if you look at the Endeavor's going up over 100 USD. And that right there is an incredible piece of resource. The Genesis Starliner is at 400 USD. I think this ship will go up again when it's finally flyable. But when is that? You see, we just don't know. And then you have the Merchantman sitting at 5. This ship has gone up and up and up. And then they go yesterday and show size 8 dual cannons. They show a med bay. They show a defender sized hangar on a ship that has 2800 SCU that has a decent sized sales area that it specializes in. I, this ship is a wonder ship. And whether you like where it's going or not, it's it's one of those you want to hang on to until it gets its upgrades. So if you're in that boat, that's why I'm making this video. Actually, I was in the middle of putting schematics together for the other capital class thing. I'd love to nerd out with you all about differences between the capital ships and where the capital ship landscape is going into 2022. But right now, this is what you need, or some of you. I hope this reaches that smaller group that's considering these things. Uh, Sorry, I'm giving my secret away. My cards are on the table of why I made this video. But in these ships, you have a lot of investment. You've backed for, in some cases, years, over 5 years in some cases, or more. Heck, some of us have been here since the beginning, although I didn't have any crazy large ships back then. I had an Aurora LX. So what I say to you is, please, please, think carefully before you apply a CCU. If you purchase something and you're hearing this video and you're like, oh, geez, he's on to something, but I don't know. That's good. That's a good place for you to be. Just think carefully about your fleet. Talk with your org. Is everybody else also doing the same thing? Make sure that they're not investing in the same ship. You don't want to have a situation where your entire cap fleet is revolved around like 5 Liberators, because you know those people in your group. You know, even if you need to pull them aside to talk, like, hey, I was thinking about this, and just see where they go. Because I strongly feel that's going to be a situation we have. I remember in EVE Online, we had times where everybody worked their guts off to get into a carrier. And a carrier was a major logistics vessel where you can fill it with fitted ships and rigged and fitted ships and be able to move them around. It was a million M3 or something. Over time, my tack like knowledge of Eve is getting less and less over the years. But anyway, and what we found was when we needed to do the strategic moves, like doing damage on targets, when we first got into OO in the beginning days of my 10 years with Eve, we didn't have any dreads. We didn't have the large guns to literally be able to knock down passes. We had systems that were not capable of doing offensive work. We had tons of logistics capability, but we didn't have that backbone to back it up. So that's kind of where I'm at. In many cases, it would honestly be better for you to pick up the paint and just stick with the paint for now. This ship will be available again, unless you're gung ho about the war bond variant. And I would get this one if I was in the war bond variant. If you already have concierge unlocked, to get that free paint, so you get even more of a value. But unless you're in that boat where you're not melting other things, this might be a time to wait, or it's a time to get a upgrade and sit on it. This is a good example. The literal loaner for this ship is the M2, and this isn't a bad one. You can use credit for this because there is no war bond variant of the upgrade, unfortunately, or you'd hear me singing the praises about that. It would actually underprice the M2, unfortunately, but it would have been good for everyone else, for every other ship below the M2. But this is kind of where we're at right now. You need to think carefully about your strategic moves, and do not make a big jump on a ship that's still a concept. At the very least, just don't apply anything. You can always melt and use credit to get a move around. And if you're considering the packs, be very careful not to get the 820 pack, because that fighter pack there does not have proper insurance. And I know some people are in the policy of it doesn't matter what insurance it has, et cetera, et cetera. But please, 6 months for a cap ship is just, even I agree, insurance isn't going to be an incredible amount of money, but you deserve better than that. We all do. So that's an embarrassment that even came with that. That should come with like two years or something like that at the very least. But anyway, sorry, I digress. This pack, and this pack all have lifetime. If you're considering packs, just avoid the A20 and you'll be happy. I honestly think the upper packs, not unsurprisingly, have a proper setup. I mean, they have some really good support vehicle and the ships to be able to support such a massive vessel without having to rely on your org to fill the thing. So this is pretty cool. Those packs to the right. The fighter pack, take it or leave it. I think they're more as LTI tokens alongside the ship. Very nice LTI tokens, but LTI tokens. So that's the Liberator in a nutshell for the sale. Remember, I'm trying to just pump this out for those folks who need this video right now. And I think we all need to really take stock whenever these hype train, really attractive events happen. We see the new shiny, we go chasing the new shiny. I am just as guilty. It took me a day to really recover from CitizenCon and really sit down and really look at these sales and consider, what do I want to do. For reference, I picked up two of those skins, the paints, the Condor paints for the Liberator. I also picked up a single Penumbra paint for the 400i, and I got a CCU credit. Sorry, not a war bond. A CCU credit for the 400i, which is a little pricey, but I'll go into my logic there a little bit. And now that we're into the 400i series, so in the 400i sale, which is on its own page, remember I'm gonna have links below. You can also go on the Robert Space Industries website, and they're pretty much at the top there. Let me full screen this actually. That's a little nicer. What we're dealing with here is a ship that should have been out like 6 months, a year ago. And that's just me being honest. It's a beautiful ship. It's well done. It's well polished. I think they spent a little too much time polishing it. It does not come with the X1. So in the front, it has like, I would call it a mini hangar, like an elevator that comes out of it, that's just built for the X1 and only the X1 series of ships. There's one catch. The X1's still a concept ship. It's like a flying hover bike. It's very cool. It's very cool looking. I like that there's different styles. I think there's a racing one, a combat one. So there's some cool options on the X1s, but none of them are available, and none of them come with the 400i. And there is no package that comes with the X1. I unfortunately have to say that.
Instead, they have decided to make these paints. So if you're looking for a package with the Origin stuff, there's really not much available. But the 400i, the good news is there's no variance. So you don't have to have that soul search where, oh, I pick one with better combat, better exploration, better racing capacities, or touring capacities. Unlike other Origin series, there is no variant. And in the Q&A, they said we're basically we don't have intentions to make a variant surprise you at any time soon. So that's kind of I trust them at face value. I think this ship once again had a little too much polish, but it's an all around ship that is slightly geared towards exploration, mainly due to its long endurance engines that don't consume a lot of fuel. Um, it's a really interesting vessel. I'm once again we're going to focus on the sale, so I'm going to get back to that and talk about these price points. The war bond price point, if you're willing to do new cash, is excellent, just excellent. And this ship is a 315 ready. It's already in the 315 PTU. If you missed my video, I just put up, I'll have it in the end cards, covering a tour of the ship, and it's in action, combat in action. I still have the gimbal size 3 weapons on it. I've now had two different people remind me that it can apparently can put size 4s on there. So it can have two pilot controlled size 4s. And that's going to bring up my value estimate of this ship. If you can have two fixed size 4s on this ship, energy based ones, because remember, it's an exploration, long range type ship. It right now has two size 3 energies with like the energy clip system, so it constantly reloads without any worry or anything. Uh, if I can get size 4 energies, which I'm going to be testing tonight or tomorrow, uh, fixed, that would sort out a lot of the issues I have with this ship. I believe it's a little meager, especially if you're when you're flying solo. When you are blessed to have at least one crew person on board, suddenly it's a lot easier to work with. Both the turrets on this are size 3s. They're dual size 3s. One's below, one's above, and one person can jump between both remote turrets. And why does all that matter? Well, because at this price point, there isn't that much competition with that type of weaponry. And I went in depth, really in depth there for a minute, because it is not. I'm just going to come out and just bring up the point. We're going to compare this to the Connie. We're going to compare this to the Corsair. And then I'm going to say it's none of those. It's none of those. And I think if this price point for the non Warbond variant was what we were talking, I wouldn't be allowed to get away with saying that. But at this price point, there ain't much there, especially with the if you like the luxury, if you like the exploration aspects, this thing can fit a full Cyclone. It can still fit the X1, or it can do cargo in an X1 because they're in separate hangars. And that brings a lot of value added for exploration. At this price point, it's not bad at all. I think that this price point starts pushing it, even though I purchased at that level. Like I just told you, the CCU anyway was it added up to that. That was the calculation, but and then the paints. Let's go into the ship for a minute. So if you get the War Bond regular, you will get the LTI, and you also get a paint. So you get the Meridian paint, which is this it's kind of like a little bit of gold trim going on with it, a little different. So one of the things that's a little got to be a little careful with is the way this paint is. This is like the standard paint. You have to come down to like the paint area, even though I just said I wouldn't. I didn't think I had to, but I do. The Penumbra, the Calcutta, Stratus, the Afterglow. Where is the Meridian paint? Appears the Meridian paint is a custom paint, just like the Concierge paint, just for this sale. For that War Bond, I think. Does this come with the Meridian? Yes, this comes with the Meridian paint as well. So the 6-month insurance variant, which I would not recommend in any way, shape, or form, comes with a cool paint, just like the War Bond variant does. Now, if you come over to the Concierge, this will include both paints. So there you go. The Meridian paint and the Penumbra paint. The penumbra paint, if you saw my previous video, that's the gray with the gold trim. Like the entire sides are covered in gold. The top has some gold on it. I'll try to cut that into this video so you can see that one. The only reason I'm not showing you the Meridian one is because I don't own it. So it's a little bit of a challenge. But these ships are worth it if you can afford the war bond or if you can win a CCU from something else. Very worth it. I would not recommend the 250 on its own. I'll show you in CCUs where I'm thinking if you're going to use credit, which is I think a fine option for many people. You can get the penumbra on its own. This is how I purchased it. You can purchase this with credit for 11 USD. So this right here is what I got, and you can use this with credit or you can use this with new money. Goes without saying. And this is a good option if you do not want to buy a 400i today, but you're curious about it or you're thinking I'll buy it in game later. This is a good thing to pick up. Rare limited time paint, and if you're a concierge. This is showing you the Calcutta, the Stratus, and the Afterglow here. Now, this is the black paint I alluded to in the video. It's very close to the penumbra paint. I noticed this is a darker color than the penumbra. This has a bit less gold, but this is very close. This is basically, you could have the same feel. It's very luxurious looking. That orange is going to look really good. I think the high contrast on the dark ship is going to look really cool. And then you have this kind of more darker style, and then you have this gold on the white. I think they're all really nice. I think they did a nice job having all these different kinds of paints in here for this ship. And the paint pack isn't bad if you like designing ships. Although I think these two paints look very close to each other. If I didn't know the difference, like if I wasn't like an aficionado of paints or something, I would question if this is worth it. Maybe just pick one of these three and go with that. And remember, these are credit or war bond. So that's literally everything here. If you are concierge, pick this up. You just use some store credit. Pick this up, pick this up, pick this up. You won't regret that. If you even consider it at any point, you're going to buy this ship with store credit or in game or in a future sale, whatever. Oh, sorry, I should have did some prep on this one. There's the Meridian one. There's that nice dark color one. Free for a limited time only. Very cool. That's a very cool ship right there. And then here's the penumbra version, the grayish with the gold versus basically all black with the little hints of a color there. And then Afterglow is the one with the orange. I'm a fan of the darker ones if you can't catch here, or just the standard Origin edition. I think the Origin edition really, well, is very Origin. And it looks great. I think the high contrast look, that white, the black accents is really cool looking. And then if you go into the darker ones, you can see a few little hints of things. Sorry, not that one. I actually think the Afterglow looks pretty cool. I like the racing look to it, even though this ship ain't that fast. I think it looks cool. This is very stylish. The Meridian is a great substitute for the Penumbra, especially if you want lower key. Some people may get this, even if they're concierge. They may get them want that Meridian paint job. But anyway, oh boy. So let's start kicking around here. So let's get over to CCUs. When I showed this with the Liberator, understand the Liberator does not have a war bond variant as a CCU, so you're paying full price. But this is a great way to get the Liberator as a store credit with LTI. So if you have a ship, like in my case, I have a few different ships. So if I had a ship, let's say the 400i, this wouldn't be a crazy option well, it's a little pricey, but this wouldn't be a bad option if I had store credit laying around that much, because I could. I just told you I picked up a 400i. There's nothing tied to that ship. There's nothing. Even the paint's in a separate package, so I can even melt. Well, sorry, I can't melt it. It's CCU'd, but basically I can make that anything I want, and there's no strings attached. You could literally CCU to a 400i, and then have a CCU for a Liberator sitting there. So when you in the short term, near term, you can enjoy that 400i, and then literally you can just upgrade to the Liberator once it comes out, and suddenly that 400i with 10-year insurance or LTI or some like a decent, you really want it with a decent insurance, suddenly is in your inventory, and bam, you have this type of ship. So you have the best of both worlds right here. Now, I will say that the Liberator, it has as its loaners the M2 and the Super Hornet. I think it is. It's one of the Hornets. That's a good combination, but at the end of the day, do you need that level of hauling capacity of vehicles? If your fleet doesn't have that level of hauling, that might be an option. If your fleet already has things like the Cat or a C2 or something else, I, I really don't know if you need an M2. That's up to you, though. That's up to your decision. Some of the other ones I see in here, if you're really disappointed with the Apollo not coming out recently, you could get something like this. Uh, I don't know if that's really worth it. The Argo Mole is a great standby. I've been using this as like the upgraded Starfarer G. So back in the day, people would use Star Gs, Starfarer Geminis, as like a point of every sale would have a Starfarer Gemini. So you could just have an upgrade to most of the ships that were right near that price point. This is not as good as the Star G when you were talking about this much money, but still, this would be a good standby. The Mole is often available, the Liberator is not. Oh, we don't know that yet, but it would only be available probably for the annual sale. So that's another thought I have in my head. I would not do the Endeavor. I would not give a whole day up for this. The C2 is probably a pretty shelf stable upgrade. A lot of people have a C2. This is a solid upgrade over the C2. And I would point out that the ship value of the C2 has grown. So if you're one of the people who has enjoyed that benefit of the C2 just going up and up and up in value, this isn't too bad. It's gone up, a little bit of time, a little bit, a few $dozen. So that's good. That's great. And I would say that this is one of those examples of like something you can hang on to, keep it in your back pocket, or you could apply the upgrade immediately and upgrade your C2 to an M2. Now, the M2 does have a smaller storage space. For reference, the C2 can store a bit more than the Cat, whereas the M2 stores slightly less than the Cat. However, we haven't really seen that especially for roll on roll off operations. If you do those, like I just said earlier, not many people do, but if you do those with ground vehicles, ground vehicles will not be infected by this. We're just talking about purest hauling here, putting a bunch of SCU into the ship and utilizing it in that fashion. And we have yet to see the M2 really taking a big haircut on anything but that raw hauling capacity. And as things get more realized with armor, the M2 may have a leg up in that field. But I just figured it's worth mentioning. You gain that chin turret on the M2 on the front of the ship to help defend it a little better, and you get that armor. It's the military grade stuff, so it's not a bad ship. So that's a really cool upgrade path right there. If you already have a C2 or you're considering a C2 for the annual sale, this isn't that bad. As a reminder, you can literally get any of these ships. You can literally get an upgrade for any of these ships. Anything, just by just clicking the all ships button. You can get one from an X1, something that should be on sale right now, and get a Pisces upgrade. Anything that's available right now, you can get an upgrade from over here for any ship you want. And why would that make sense? You can sit there and you can purchase something that's extremely close in value. Unfortunately, you're not hearing me suggest that for that specific ship because it's just so costly. It's basically at a price point on its own. It's not quite up at the Polaris, Nautilus, Hammerhead level, but it's just hanging out in this weird price point where nothing else is near it. It's really a difficult price point, and yeah, the Banu Merchantman is close, etc., etc. But that's really not going to stay close. The Banu Merchantman is going to go up at least another $200, 200 USD, at least. So that's a hype train and a half. Do not use that upgrade if you picked one up. Do not do that right now. Just remember, the Liberator's not even out. So you keep your keep your potential value and just keep the upgrade for later. You can always melt it and then redo this at another ship sale. So on to the 400i upgrade options. You have the 400i standard, you have the 400i war bond. There is, as you can see, there is a $30 difference, 30 USD dollar difference. So the same upgrade war bond variant versus the credit version in the store, you can see is also here for the CCU. Ignore these prices. That's just because I picked that X1. So let's say you use the war bond variant. Well, we have suddenly a lot of options. If I go to that price point, sorry, because I have all ships available, it's going to take me a minute to scroll to that level. Probably should just sort it by highest price, but anyway. If you look here, you could, in theory, go to the Corsair, and you can see it's not a terrible amount of money, because even though it says the ship value is 250 USD, you're actually getting charged 220 USD. So whatever you trade from, the 220 is what the marker is going to be. That also means that anything that's more expensive than 220 will not be available. Anything 220 and above will not be available for CCU to it. So I think out of these, options, especially the war bond one, I'm considering that because that's new money, but it's only a small amount of new money. I would look hard at these two. You have the Vulcan, which is an advanced starter, and I truly believe it's way overpriced for what it is. It's not in game yet, whereas the 400i is. You'll get a lot more use out of this. $20, the 20 USD. That's not too bad. I think also the Hurricane, it was the fruit of the moment. It is still strong, but I think as the Scorpius comes online, it's gonna lose some of its luster. I think this thing's gonna be nerfed a little bit as the guns get reworked and everything goes back to different levels. I think getting the most powerful weapons on this ship is going to be extremely resource intensive on the ship, and it's not basically not going to work. The coolers overheat or something else. They will balance this ship somehow, because this ship can during the 314 PTUs and the 314, even the original live, this ship was able to pop almost every single ship in the game that didn't have cap shields, which is craziness. It could do it in like 6 seconds, 10 seconds. It was just getting silly. So if I was anybody who really was a fan of the Hurricane, I would have an escape plan. I would have an upgrade such as the 400i sitting in my back pocket for 25 USD. That's a really nice way to get out of it. Enjoy it now. Keep enjoying it. Once it gets no more fun, phew, there you go. You got a nice ship right there. Nice upgrade. And but I mean, that's if you like larger ships. To be fair, this is another one, the Connie Taurus, a recently very popular ship. I myself had a Connie Taurus. I really enjoyed it, but I honestly upgraded it, and I kind of have mixed feelings about upgrading that ship. I still feel the Connie Taurus is going to be an excellent ship for outpost work, but we keep hearing about even the NPC outpost, or kind of in the near future, player outposts are going to be even further away. When the Connie Taurus will truly come into its own when people have outposts of their own to put. They need to move vehicles around. They need to move ore containers around and get clever with things. Pack in 3 or even 4 ROCs into this thing and move them over to another location, and that it can kind of do a little bit of defense. It has a lot of missiles. It has that upper turret, um, and still be like that multi-role Connie. And I also love the fact that if you're used to flying a Connie, you can fly this thing. It's a little more sluggish, but it still performs pretty well. That shielded area in the back with the extra storage is just well done. Honestly, I was never a big fan of the snubs anyway. So replacing it with something that's like a nice little niche in that market, the hauling business, it's just even cooler to me. I mentioned before, it's not just for nefarious items. We still don't know exactly how the shielding system will work, but in theory, players, if they go to scan your cargo, will not be able to see the lucrative items that are hidden in the back of the ship there. So you could put, say, mining enhancements that are worth 50,000 UEC or more. You can put them in that shielded area, and hopefully somebody won't decide it's worth committing a crime to try to steal your cargo. It would help folks that are honest or not so honest, depending on what they want to do, get their mission done and get it done without getting too much pirate attention. So the 400i war bond is good. I mentioned that there's two different variants here. When you click on it, it will go into this option setup, and like I said, the credit version is fine. It's at the 250 price point. If this goes any higher, I don't think it'd be worth it. I think in this sale it will be. I fear that they will try to up the price on this thing, and that's when I'm just gonna look at it and just go, okay, this is too far. Um, when I look at the credit price point, I see some ships here that don't really belong here. I don't think an Andromeda is upgraded to a 400i. I don't think a Raylan is being upgraded to a 400i. I think the origin tax is on this thing. The luxury tax is heavily on the 400i for the credit version, not the war bond. The war bond is actually priced pretty competitively for what it is. But the Andromeda will blow this thing out of the sky. It's a bigger ship, though. I've mentioned this before. The 400i has a bit of a lighter footprint, even though it's big. It's a slender ship. It's not as long. You literally can keep tabs on everything going on, and your small crew can really comfortably get all over that ship anywhere they need to be within seconds. I showed in the walkthrough. If you keep the elevator at the bottom, you can literally just drop through it like it's a like it's a fire pole or something. Like, and just drop and put the fire out wherever it is, or do some damage control, or grab your gear, weapons, suits, etc. that are needed for the mission. So I think this thing has a place. I think especially for a two-person team, this ship would be great. Yes, it's also designed for up to three people. No, I don't think there's enough work on this ship for three people. I don't think it's worth that. But if you have a family member, a close friend, close org mates that you'd like to sometimes pull out the ship, maybe late at night, there's only a couple people who are dedicated at night. And you just you and another person of the org. This is a nice ship to have in your back pocket. Even flying alone, once again, I got to confirm the size 4 fixed weapons can be fitted that are energy based. Um, if those successfully can be used, combined with those size 2 and size 1 missiles on board, this is quite a nice little package for somebody who's flying alone and occasionally has friends or org mates and such that want to fly with them. But there's not a lot of people, because once you start actually talking about 3 or 4 folks, there's a lot of better options. This ship is specialized. It's a smaller crew item. It is not meant for parties. They said they went out of their way to even say that. The life support can't even support more than 3 people with a small buffer. But there's 4 escape pods down below. You figure that out. But anyway, there's only 3 beds. It's a ship that it's meant for a specific role. Where I look at the Connie Andromeda, that's got a lot more going for a larger crew. I look at the Raylan, that ship has a specialization, but it's more for 3 crew. Um, these ships are really good for that. I'm skipping the Hoplite because that's a hyper specialized dropship. That's a Vanguard that has the dropship, a tiny little dropship thing in the back. It was built for Squadron 42 for, in theory, something to do with that. Um, I'm not even going to comment on that thing because it's one of those. If you know you want it, you need it, you keep it. If not, don't. I think it's well worth more than the Banu Defender. And I love the Banu Defender, but I do not believe it's worth that price. I have a Banu Defender right now because I have a Banu Merchantman, and one of its loaners is the Defender, and I love this ship, but I will not be picking one up for that kind of price. That's definitely a go find it in game, earn it in game somehow from the Banu. I heard the Banu like money, so I strongly suspect that this will be available to purchase in game. It just won't be I don't think I'm going to like the price, but that's probably how I'm going to pick that up. Um, the Terrapin is a nice upgrade for. This would be a nice upgrade from a Terrapin. If you notice, the Warbond variant did not have this in its list because it's at the exact same price point of 220 USD. Whereas if you're doing the credit variant, it's 30. That'd be 30 USD. That's a nice little upgrade. Um, Seljuk I'm not going to comment on that. Just to be brutally honest, I don't know much about it. And then, of course, the Ares. I think are going to go slightly up in price, although I can't confirm. I can't confirm that. We don't know exactly the limitations of the Inferno. This is kind of a speculation thing here, but the Inferno might be worth having a CCU over to the 400i, and then you don't always have to apply it. You can just melt it again. But a 30 USD out of the Inferno to a ship that you know will be good uh, in any circumstance is a good idea, compared to the hyper specialized Inferno that may have extremely limited ammunition. Depending on how much ammo this thing has, like if its cannon only can burst for 3 or 4 seconds, and then it has to reload at a ship or at a station, that it's going to have a bad time. I'm obviously very, very, very exaggerating, but I think this thing will be hyper balanced by its ballistic ammo. The Ion, on the other hand, has that rechargeable weapon system. So they're both size 7 bespoke weapons that are both built around the ship. But this one happens to have the Achilles heel of the ammunition. So I can't help but think that might be good to have a CCU from. And this isn't a terrible CCU to have on standby. Um, Even though I said nice things about the Super Hornet a little bit earlier, that's another good example. This is a shorter range ship. Once you get into Pyro, a ship like this is going to be more desirable. And that's about it. So this has kind of been it was intended to be a shorter video to discuss all the different price point discussion and some of the options you have for the ship sale. But I think that I hope that it kind of wandered through this world pretty strongly in the right direction. And I'll finally top this off with what I said at the beginning of the video. There's still one really shining ship from the previous sale that really should be added into your equation, especially in the 400i category of ship cost, and that is the Caterpillar. The Caterpillar is going to be modular. It has a rare paint available that's just coming out. It's available in 315, which I'm just remembering now. I really should get that. I wonder if it's available in 315 PTU. This is 11 USD, store credit, or with new money, and this will give it a unique paint job that is rare. It just came out this year. It's the first time this is available. Probably at the very least it'll be rare for another year until it comes out again. And I think this is available all October. But yeah. And let's go back around to this area here. And one of the things that I wanted to point out is that the Caterpillar is in the CCU chain. It was not originally, and I don't know if that was a mistake or if that was intentional, but CIG worked this out, so it is now in the CCU system. It was only like the second to give them credit. They responded quickly to the request. Within like a day or two, it was in the system at the beginning of the month, the beginning of the sale, the day of the Vara sale. October 1, 2, 3, I think something like that it started. But anyway, the Caterpillar without the ghoulish green paint, without any Warbond sale or anything, is available in the CCU system. Now, if you think about this, you have some pretty cool options that you could build out of, and I'll leave these to you to make that decision. But one of the funniest ones is you could, in theory, literally go full circle and pick the 400i and have that ship value, regardless if you get the Warbond one or not, you have that 250 price point, and then it's $45 to the Caterpillar. You can get yourself a nice credit-based insurance policy. So if you decide the 400i is not for you, I've outgrown the 400i, I've done whatever, you can go and get that modular cat and literally go full circle here. All under 300. Well, if you hit the ghoulish green paint, like I keep suggesting, it's $11 extra, so 11 USD. So that would put you over the 300 point. But still, that's not a bad spot to be. The Connie Andromeda, even that's another example. This has some serious weaponry and forward-facing weaponry for the most part, but it does have the band turret as well. And I gotta say, it's a heck of a ship. So if you can get past the asymmetricalness, some people actually love that. It's endearing to them. But if you're not one of those people, if you can get past the asymmetrical nature, this is a pretty cool ship. And honestly, I mean, you're putting it up against some serious ships here. But the Vanguards are what they are. They're long range ships that are going to do well on Pyro. They're like the elite fighters. They're going to be able to stay out there by themselves. I wouldn't upgrade a Mercury Star Runner to this, but there is some good options, especially if you want to go a little bit south of that price point. And once again, I'm picking on the Terrapin. Even though I love the Terrapin, I think it's a buying game. I'm going to pick on the Ares because these will not make you as much money as a Caterpillar will, especially when this gets modular. We don't know what these dang 4 modules are going to be able to be. Right now, they're just cargo storage, but eventually we will have modules, and any module is going to be good. Even if it's like a tier 3 medical bed, bam, now all of a sudden you have basic medical services on this ship. If you have any R&D stuff or shielded cargo, anything at all, additional beds even, suddenly this ship is immensely more valuable. And this ship, they've promised at the annual sale it will go up in cost. I don't think it's going to price hike that much, but they said based on the fact it has incredible shields, its weaponry, its modular capabilities, its utility in nature, they said because of all the package it is, it's worth more than what they're charging right now. And this ship is gonna skyrocket, I think. Well, not skyrocket, maybe 340. It was probably a good guess, 350. I think they'll price it in such a position where you can't easily CCU to something crazy, but so probably 355 or something, 350. That'll suddenly put you out of that 350 bracket where most of the big ships are, like the Endeavor's even at 350, which is always a buy. Heck, I wish it was still 250 because then it would be an instant buy for most people when they start talking about expanding their fleet for the long term. But anyway, the Caterpillar is an interesting ship because it's available. It has a unique paint just like the other 2 ships that I just brought up, and it's still in the store. And honestly, it'll probably be in the store longer than the CitizenCon ships are. So do consider it. Do keep your options open. Keep your mind open. There is other ships in that Day of the Vara sale, but I didn't want to go too in depth. There's some interesting stuff. The Cuddies. You have the Buccaneer. They are what they are. I'm just eh. Sorry, I feel that way, but they're not like this. This ship is going to jump in price. It's got the modularity on the horizon. If they were saying the same things about these other ships, I would be excited, but they're not. This ship has a lot of up potential, and it's a ship to really think about. I don't think the 400i is going to go up in price very much. I think it's kind of at that credit point. We're seeing a preview of like kind of where it's going to be. It's already flyable, remember? So I think they've priced it appropriately. It's underwhelming to some folks because they got to keep that price point in mind. And the Liberator will go up in price. I guarantee it. Even the credit version is not high enough, the 575 USD. I think it's going to go up another 100 or two. Probably 100 just to be safe. I don't think they're going to go too crazy with this thing. But the Liberator will go up. So that's okay. And just disclosure, all price hike discussion, aside from the Caterpillar, is speculation, like always. I'm using all the information and trends that we see from previous sales across the years, and recent trends especially. I try to weight heavier because they kind of give us a hint of where CIG's mind is going, and as a group, I think that they make those decisions very carefully, and I appreciate that they communicated not only that the Caterpillar was going to go up in price but also the reasoning behind it. And they talked about the modularity, the utility nature, um, the weapons and shield combination, and the buffs that's received. All fair points. I'm not saying I really appreciate that the price is going up, because it's a shame, because it makes it harder for me to recommend it to newer players and people trying to just kind of move to that middle tier of ships in size. Um, I consider this a top tier ship for what it is, but in size, it's probably like a mid size ship. That it's going to get your feet wet into a serious multi crew vessel that can make you serious money. A lot like the Hercules, by the way. The Hercules series is the same way. Um, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. I would mention that the A2 is actually in the PTU already. I find it interesting. It's not for sale in the CCUs. It's not available. It is a limited ship, I think, if at least the last big sale last year. And it, it, the A2 is one of the Herculeses that I feel like has its place, but it's just for the Moab. It's just for the cluster bombs that it'll eventually have on top of the Moab as well, that it can switch between. That it can also do other things. It's a gun truck. It actually has an entire room full of turrets on the second floor. It's like turret controls. I was flabbergasted. I got some video I got from that. I want to actually have moving targets and show something like it hitting tanks and such, and see if it actually is as good as the previews that they showed at CitizenCon and at previous shows. Um, we'll see. We'll see. Very exciting stuff. A lot of things on the horizon. I hope this video is a little rough around the edges, but I hope it got to the people who needed to get it. And if you have any thoughts, maybe I missed something, maybe I'm overstating something, please don't hesitate to add them below, especially on this topic. You don't have to tell us, all your personal, here's exactly what my fleet is, if you don't want to. I know some folks are shy. Some folks don't want to talk about their fleets. Some folks don't want their significant other to find out about their fleets, which is all fine. I didn't say nothing. But if you just give people some perspective, like, hey, I happen to find this, or hey, maybe you should wait on that because we're going to see the Golden Pass get done on this ship. Those type of things are greatly appreciated, and it's more helping the other folks in the group that are watching this kind of get that perspective, because that's why they hit these videos up. And yeah, thanks for watching, and fly safe. I hope you appreciated this conversational style of this video. I tried to have it like as if I was giving a one-on-one discussion with someone about the different ship options they had currently, and I hope that came across. If it was a little too rough around the edges, don't hesitate to let me know below publicly, or reach out to me privately. As always, on Discord, I'm available at redj #0001. As a reminder, in the upcoming videos, I will have, hopefully very, very soon, the schematics of going over the Liberator and comparing it to other capital ships. So as people get prepared for the annual sale coming up and trying to meet the needs of the Liberator being available right now in this concept sale, that's my timing, is the next day or two I'll have that up, for better or worse. All right, have a good one, everyone.